Hello, my name is Nathan Peterson, licensed clinical social worker. Have you ever heard of magical thinking OCD? Before I start, are you new to my channel? If you are, make sure you subscribe. I am posting videos regularly about OCD, anxiety, depression, and other mental health disorders. So magical thinking OCD. Some people might call this superstitious OCD. Somebody who suffers with this type of OCD may have the fear that if they do not do certain things, that something bad might happen. What I find is that the correlation between the thing that they feel like they must do and what they perceive as danger doesn't correlate whatsoever. There is no link. And often I find logic doesn't play a part. Something that I see that is very common within magical thinking OCD is that the person may believe and think that if I don't count to a certain number, or if I don't place something just a certain way, or if I don't tap a certain amount of times, or if I don't look in the sky and I say something specific, or I don't hit the light switch maybe 2 or 3 times as I leave, that something bad might happen to possibly a loved one. Sometimes I see that logic comes in and says, you know what, that correlation doesn't seem to make sense. Do you really need to count to 5? But guess what? The fear, the anxiety, the distress that that person is feeling is so overwhelming at points that why would they risk it? They've gone this far without anything bad happening. So why not? It doesn't take that long, just count to 5. That's just a short example. It can be any number that a person might feel or think. I also see this with colors. Somebody might feel like if I use the color red or if I use the color black, something bad might happen. They also actually might correlate this to religion in some way or another. Somebody might feel the need to recite a word or a thought over and over and over again just to make sure they said it the right way, or else, again, something bad might happen. Sometimes they feel like they need to move their body in a certain way. So if I move my arm maybe up like this, something inside their body might urge them and say, hey, you know what, you moved your arm like this, you might need to move that other arm like that, either to gain some type of symmetry, or it's just that feeling that they get that's overall can be completely random at every single moment that might not actually make too much sense to them, but they know they've got to do it, because if they don't, why risk it? I've seen this in the form of thoughts coming through their head that they actually feel like they need to reverse these thoughts. If they don't reverse them, say the words actually backwards, that something bad might happen. Sometimes individuals will see that a certain time on the clock and they know that every single time the big hand is on the number 5, they must say a certain word or do a certain action with their body, or else. Often this is seen with cracks. We've all heard it throughout our life. You step on a crack, you break your mother's back. But for magical thinking OCD, sometimes this actually feels like it's very, very true. If the person steps on a crack, sometimes they might get that overwhelming feeling. It could be very specific. Something bad's going to happen to my mom, something bad's going to happen to my loved one, or it can be completely random. I don't know what that bad thing is, but I'm not really willing to take that risk. Sorry. You think about how frustrating that's got to be, where I tend to see individuals' lives start shrinking and shrinking and shrinking because I can no longer step on those tiles in my bathroom. It's too stressful. How I find this compounding over time for some individuals is that something bad might actually happen. They get in a car crash, something bad happens to a loved one, they trip on the sidewalk and hit their face. That their brain is really good at saying, you know why? You know why that happened? It's because that one time when you looked at that clock and you didn't recite that word, or you placed that item down incorrectly, that is why. So make sure the next time you're in that situation, don't let that happen again. Fix it, do it the correct way. You think about anything in our life. If I'm interested in possibly purchasing a new watch, or I just bought a new car, guess what? I'm actually gonna notice it and see it more and more and more. I'm gonna say, hey, I just bought that watch too. And I'm gonna notice other people are wearing that same watch. When I see magical thinking or possibly superstitious OCD, this is what their brain is primed to do. They're going to notice the bad things. They're going to notice those things, and maybe someone else might just walk past and say, well, life happens. People get in car crashes. People trip on the side of the road. People spill their drinks. That's just something that happens. But for them, they might be noticing this over time and time and time and time and time again, which solidifies to them that the behavior you are doing is correct and it is true, and don't you dare risk having that not come to pass. So ultimately, the treatment that works really well for this is called exposure and response prevention. What I want somebody to do is live uncertain about this fear. If I feel like I just put down my phone a certain way and my body and my brain urges me that, you know what, you better straighten that, or you better change the way that you just did that because you feel like something bad's gonna happen, so you better do it. I want that person to either leave it exactly where it is, spend some time in that moment and live uncertain, say, you know what, something bad might happen, maybe not, we'll see. And sit there, be uncomfortable. Allow that anxiety, distress, whatever that feeling is, to reduce. Sometimes they even say, make it worse. I put down that phone incorrectly according to my brain, so I'm gonna grab that phone and poof, I'm gonna put it down incorrectly again. Possibly the same way, possibly a different way. It's almost like you're being a bully to your brain. Like, you know what, you want me to put that down a certain way? Guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna make it worse. I almost imagine the brain saying, what are you doing? That's crazy, you shouldn't be doing that. You need to stay safe. But guess what happens? When that bad thing actually doesn't come to pass, your brain's gonna start learning, is gonna start knowing that, hey, wait a second, something isn't matching up here. You said something bad is gonna happen and nothing did. Where this sometimes gets tricky is that something a year from now could happen and the person might correlate that. Aha, it's because that one time I didn't move my phone that certain way. That's why this happened. But guess what we're gonna answer that with? Maybe. That's probably why. Cool. Yeah, maybe. That we want to use that kind of attitude when it comes to something like this. I'm giving a short rundown of how this treatment might work for magical thinking OCD, but seeing a therapist and actually going through the hierarchy, going through all the steps necessary for this is actually very important. I would urge you to find a therapist if you haven't already. Let me know in the comments below. Have you ever heard of magical thinking OCD? Do you have it yourself? Have you done exposures for this? Start speaking out. Let us know what is happening. I'd love to hear about it. Also, if you have any other ideas for videos that I should do, you are very welcome to let me know. Also, again, make sure you subscribe below. I'm going to be posting various videos that are going to be helpful for you. And thank you very much for watching.